I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, some small, some big. But there's one decision I'll regret until the day I die. A decision that started out as nothing more than a video idea for my tiny YouTube channel and ended with me realizing that my life and my family's life had never really been private. I ordered a mystery box from the dark web. I know it sounds stupid, but back then it didn't feel like it. It felt like an opportunity. And if you've ever even thought about doing it, if you've been curious, if you've seen those viral videos, let me be the one to warn you, don't, because you don't know who's on the other side of that box or what they already know about you. So I'd been running my YouTube channel for a little over a year. Nothing big, just creepy videos, haunted places, scary internet stories. I had maybe a few hundred subscribers, but I loved it. I loved the thrill of digging into something eerie and sharing it with an audience, no matter how small. That's when the trend hit, dark web mystery boxes. Overnight, it felt like every YouTuber was unboxing one. They were getting millions of views. People pulled out bizarre objects, sometimes scary, sometimes ridiculous, but always entertaining. And in my mind, I thought, this is it. This is the kind of video that could push my channel forward. The only problem? These boxes could only be bought with Bitcoin. At the time, I had no idea how that worked. I spent days fumbling with exchanges, converting cash into digital currency, feeling like I was trespassing into some world I didn't belong in. The websites looked shady, the process confusing, but finally I managed it. I placed the order and then I waited. And waiting was its own kind of torture. Every knock at the door made my heart jump. I imagined the box constantly. What would it look like? What could possibly be inside? Then a few days later, finally it arrived. The package was smaller than I expected. A battered cardboard box, corners dented, wrapped in layers of thick tape. No logos, no return address. Just my name and address scribbled in black marker. For a moment, I just stared at it on the table. It looked ordinary. Too ordinary. But I had my camera gear ready, gloves on, everything set for the video. I hit record, sat down, and cut through the tape. Inside, right at the top, was a folded piece of paper. I thought it might be a receipt or some kind of note, but when I opened it, my stomach tightened. It had my full name, my full address, and underneath, written in neat block letters, was my YouTube channel name. I froze. The camera was rolling, and I tried to laugh it off nervously for the video, saying maybe they just wanted to personalize the experience. But deep down, I knew this wasn't right. How would they know my channel name? How would they know my full address like this? Beneath the note were 2 sealed envelopes and a small cardboard box taped shut. I figured I'd save the small box for last. It looked like the grand finale. So I picked up the first envelope and opened it. Inside were photographs. At first they seemed random, various landmarks, tourist spots. But then I realized they weren't random at all. They were all places my family and I had visited on vacations. Paris, Rome, Santorini. I recognized them instantly because I had been there. My hands shook as I flipped through them, and then I saw something that made my skin crawl. In each of the photos, I could see myself, or my family, always in the background, like we'd been caught by accident. Except these weren't our photos, we never posed for them. These were taken by someone else, someone who had been following us. I swallowed hard and reached for the second envelope. This one was worse, much worse. In this envelope, there are photos of my house, dozens of them, every angle, every corner. Shots taken at night, shots taken up close through the windows. Some were blurry but clear enough to show what was inside. The furniture, the curtains, the light coming from the TV. I dropped them on the table, my hands clammy inside the gloves. My voice cracked on camera as I muttered something about it being maybe a prank, but my gut screamed otherwise. At that point, I wanted to stop. I wanted to shut off the camera, throw everything away, pretend it never happened. But my curiosity, and maybe my stupid dedication to making a good video, pushed me forward. The last item was the small cardboard box. My hands trembled as I cut it open. Inside was a bundle wrapped in a plastic bag. I opened it slowly, my stomach twisting. There are bones, small, brittle bones. At first I thought maybe it was some kind of sick prop, but then I saw the collar, a faded red collar with a tiny silver tag. I didn't need to read the name engraved on it. I knew it instantly. It was Charlie, my dog, my childhood dog who had died 3 years ago and who we had buried in the backyard. I dropped the box, my vision spinning. My throat closed and I stumbled to the bathroom, where I vomited until there was nothing left. Someone had dug up my dog's grave. Someone had been in my yard. I don't know how long I lay on the bathroom floor. When I finally pulled myself up, I went back, gathered every single thing from that package, and destroyed it. I ripped up the photos, burned the bones, shredded the note. Then I deleted all the footage from my camera. I couldn't tell my family. I couldn't even find the words to explain it. What was I supposed to say? That someone had been stalking us for years? That they had been in our house? That they had dug up our dog's grave? Number. I just buried it deep inside me and prayed that if I destroyed the evidence, maybe the nightmare would end. For the next year, I avoided the dark web completely. I avoided even thinking about it. I stopped making videos for months. When I finally returned, I focused on different topics. Anything but mystery boxes. Slowly, life felt normal again. Until one night, almost exactly a year later, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. The voice on the other end was deep, calm, too calm. "Hello, Nick," it said. "Did you enjoy the mystery box from 1 year ago?" My blood turned to ice. I couldn't speak. I just ended the call and threw my phone onto the couch, staring at it like it was poison. I never got another call like that, but from that moment on, I knew. They weren't done. Whoever they were, they had been watching me all along. That's why I'm telling this story, not for views, not for entertainment, but as a warning. If you think buying a mystery box from the dark web is harmless fun, if you think it's just some silly trend for content, think again, because you're not buying random junk. You're buying attention. You're inviting someone dangerous into your life. And once they've entered, you don't get to choose when they leave. Before we dive into the next story, if you're enjoying these true horror experiences, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. I upload chilling new horror stories every other day, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Have you ever given your personal information to the wrong person, only to realize later it might have cost you your life? I never thought something like that could happen to me. I was 20 years old, just trying to make some money over the summer before heading back to college. I wasn't naive. I'd heard stories about scams and hackers, even about the dark web. But I thought those things happened to other people, not me. I was wrong. I learned the hard way that sometimes the most dangerous people aren't hidden in some corner of the internet. They're standing right in front of you. The summer after my sophomore year, I picked up a custodial job for the local school district. My dad had worked there for years and was able to get me in. It wasn't glamorous by any means, scrubbing desks, mopping floors, wiping graffiti off walls, but it paid decently and it kept me busy. Most of the other workers were older, some of them doing full-time maintenance. There were about 6 of us total, but we were rarely together. Everyone had their own assignments, spread across different schools. The strange thing about cleaning schools in the summer is how empty they feel. Hallways that were normally chaotic with kids were dead silent. Every footstep echoed. The lights buzzed faintly, and when I walked through the classrooms, it almost felt like I was trespassing. At first, I liked it. I'd put in my earbuds, listen to music, and get lost in the rhythm of wiping down rows of desks. Nobody breathing down my neck, no manager hovering, just me in the quiet. The woman I worked with the most, let's call her Karen, was in her 40s. She was nice, but she mostly kept to herself. She had a habit of sneaking out for smoke breaks and leaving me with the bulk of the work. I didn't mind. If anything, I preferred working alone. But that preference wouldn't last long. 2 weeks into the job, I was sent to the high school to clean the lower level. The basement classrooms where they taught robotics, woodworking, and shop. It was the kind of area that already felt unsettling. The hallways were narrower, the air colder. The smell of sawdust and oil still lingered, even though students hadn't been there for months. As I walked down, pushing my cart of cleaning supplies, I noticed something strange. One of the classroom doors had light shining underneath it, a thin glow against the floor. That didn't make sense. The building was empty. Karen was upstairs. Everyone else had left hours ago. Curious, I peeked through the small square window in the door. The room was dim, except for a lamp glowing on the teacher's desk. The blinds were shut tight so no sunlight came in. The lamp cast long shadows across the workbenches. At first it looked empty. Then I noticed the computer on the desk. The screen was lit up, and it didn't look like anything I'd seen before. The background was jet black with red text. A chat box sat open, lines of conversation scrolling past. I froze. Something about it felt wrong. I knocked lightly, no response. Hesitant, I turned the knob, but the door was locked. But I had keys, custodians always do. Against my better judgment, I slid the key in and opened the door. The smell hit me immediately, stale, musty, like damp wood mixed with sweat. I stepped inside, my eyes on the glowing monitor. It wasn't like a normal website. No school portal, no Google, no Word document. Just that dark screen and lines of red text. I couldn't make sense of it, but something about the design screamed hidden. Then I heard a voice from behind me. "Can I help you?" I spun around. A man stood in the doorway, mid-40s, maybe 6 feet tall, dressed casually in jeans and a collared shirt. His eyes locked onto me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. "Oh, sorry," I stammered. "I'm cleaning classrooms." "I didn't realize anyone was in here," I said. His lips curled into a half smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Ah, I see. Well, don't worry about this room. I'm working on some things and it's just going to get messy again." His voice was flat, rehearsed almost, like he had been waiting to explain himself. He walked past me and sat down at the desk, closing the browser window so fast I barely registered the click of the mouse. I nodded quickly, desperate to get out of the room. "No problem, I'll leave it alone." I turned to go, but his voice stopped me. "Wait, could I ask you a favor?" I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to keep walking, but I didn't want to seem rude. Sure?" He opened a folder on the desk and pulled out a sheet of paper. "It's a petition," he explained. "We're trying to get more funding for extracurricular classes. You know, art, woodworking, that kind of thing." I glanced at the paper. Only 2 names were on it. Below them, rows of blank lines labeled full name, address, phone number, email. My stomach dropped. Sure," I muttered, taking the pen. It felt easier to just write it down than to argue. As I scribbled my info, he watched me closely. When I finished, he smiled again. "Thank you so much, dear. You have a beautiful bone structure, by the way." I laughed awkwardly, muttered a quick thanks, and grabbed my cleaning supplies. My heart pounded as I hurried out of the room. I told myself it was nothing, just a weird teacher, maybe socially awkward. But deep down, something about him unsettled me. I should have trusted my gut. After that day, I started seeing him more often. At first, it seemed like coincidence. I'd be cleaning a hallway and he'd appear at the far end, walking slowly, watching. Or I'd pass by a window and catch him standing in the courtyard, staring up at the classrooms. He rarely spoke. If he did, it was just small talk, a comment about the weather or asking how work was going. But there was always this look in his eyes, like he was studying me. I tried to brush it off. He was a teacher after all. Maybe he just worked year-round. Maybe I was overreacting. But the more it happened, the less it felt like coincidence. One afternoon, I walked into a classroom and nearly jumped. He was already inside, standing by the window, not doing anything, just waiting. "Oh, hey," he said casually, as though it were perfectly normal. I mumbled a greeting and got out as quickly as I could. By then, every time I saw him, a knot twisted tighter in my stomach. A few weeks later, the heat was unbearable. The boss cut us loose early, so I headed home and made plans with friends. That evening, a group of us gathered at my friend's house. 5 or 6 of us lounging around, talking, laughing. One person there stood out. My boyfriend's older brother. He wasn't the social type, rarely hung out, always glued to his computer. He was into tech, building PCs, hacking, exploring parts of the internet I didn't understand. At one point, he pulled me aside. His face was serious. "I need to show you something," he said. We went into the living room. He opened his laptop, the glow of the screen illuminating his face. What I saw made my blood run cold. It was a website, black background, red text, almost identical to the one I glimpsed in that classroom. A chat box, username scrolling, numbers attached. "This is the dark web," he explained quietly. "And you're up for bid." I blinked. "What do you mean up for bid?" He scrolled, then stopped. My name, my phone number, my email, my address, all typed neatly under a photo of me, one I didn't even remember being taken. The room spun, my stomach dropped. "That petition," I whispered. "That teacher." I explained everything. The locked classroom, the computer screen, the man asking for my info. My boyfriend's brother shut the laptop. "You need to call the police." Now, so we call the police. The investigation that followed uncovered more than I could have imagined. The man wasn't just a teacher. He was running multiple accounts on dark web forums, collecting information on girls, students, staff, even some minors. On his computer, police found spreadsheets with names, contact details, photos. Some were candid shots taken around the school, others pulled from social media. At his home, it got worse. In his garage, investigators discovered wooden contraptions, restraints, cages, makeshift devices he had built by hand. The same skills he taught in woodworking, twisted into something monstrous. It became clear he was preparing for something. Whether it was abduction, trafficking, or worse, I don't know. He was arrested. The school district tried to keep it quiet, but word spread fast. For me, life was never the same. I changed my phone number, deleted my social media, and moved to a new apartment. For months, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. I still wonder sometimes, if my boyfriend's brother hadn't shown me that site, would I have just disappeared one day? Would people have assumed I ran away, while strangers on the dark web watched my final moments? I'll never know. And honestly, I don't want to. What I do know is this: giving out your personal information isn't harmless. It isn't just a name on a paper. It can cost you your safety. It can cost you your life. So next time someone asks for your full name, your phone number, your address, ask yourself, do I really trust them? Because I trusted the wrong person once, and it almost destroyed me. I don't usually talk about this. Not to friends, not to family, not even when I've had too much to drink and my guard is down. But 4 years later, it still gnaws at me every night when I turn off the lights. And I've realized that the only way to stop it from rotting me alive is to finally get it out. What I saw on the dark web wasn't a ghost or a monster or some creepypasta nonsense you read about online. It was real, human, and worse than anything supernatural could ever be. I went looking out of boredom. That's the part that keeps me up sometimes. That if I just found a healthier way to kill time during the lockdowns, none of this would have happened. It was 2020. I was 22, living alone, stuck in the same cycle of waking up, scrolling through my phone, and trying not to let the walls close in on me. Everyone was saying, use the time to pick up a new skill, learn an instrument, try baking. I laughed at that. I was too restless, too curious, too stupid. And for months, something kept nagging at me. I'd read about it on forums, seen people hint at it in YouTube videos before they got taken down. The dark web, a hidden part of the internet where you could find anything. Illegal weapons, stolen identities, drugs, hitmen, and supposedly something called red rooms. Most people called them urban legends, scams designed to trick idiots out of their Bitcoin. But some swore they were real. Private live streams where people were tortured and killed for the entertainment of paying viewers. The kind of thing you told yourself couldn't possibly exist, but that you couldn't stop wondering about anyway. I should have stopped there. Curiosity should have ended with just knowing the rumor, but I couldn't. I wanted to see for myself. So I did what every How to Access the Dark Web guide told me. I stacked VPNs like I was building a fortress, downloaded Tor, the Onion browser, read for hours about cryptocurrency wallets and how to buy Bitcoin without leaving a trail. Every step felt like I was crossing a line I couldn't come back from, but at the same time it was thrilling, like sneaking into a place I wasn't supposed to be. When I finally pressed connect on the browser, my heart was pounding so hard it hurt. My room was silent, except for the faint hum of my desktop fan, but my brain was screaming that I was about to ruin my life. And in a way, I did. At first, it was almost disappointing. The markets looked like cheap, broken eBay knockoffs. Guns, drugs, stolen credit cards. All laid out in badly coded websites. There were forums too, where people bragged about crimes or argued over whether a vendor was legit. The whole thing felt both sinister and underwhelming. But I wasn't satisfied. I hadn't come there just to scroll through fake listings. I wanted to see the thing people whispered about, the thing everyone said wasn't real. I wanted to see a red room. The first night I went browsing, I told myself I was just looking, just scratching an itch. I wasn't going to buy anything, wasn't going to talk to anyone. I'd log on, poke around, and log off. But the problem with the dark web is that the longer you look, the deeper you want to go. At first, it was almost laughable. Pages selling pistols and rifles with grainy pictures, stolen from Google Images. Vendors promising kilos of cocaine at discount prices if you paid up front. Fake passports, social security numbers, credit card dumps. It all looked like one giant scam carnival. But the more I clicked, the more disturbing it became. I stumbled into forums where people didn't bother hiding what they were. One thread had someone asking about the best way to dispose of a body, and others chimed in with step-by-step guides. Another thread was people trading images I won't even describe. I clicked away fast, but the damage was done. Once you see that kind of thing, you can't unsee it. Every few minutes, I'd check my VPN. Still running, still masked. My paranoia was sky high, but my curiosity was stronger. Hours slipped by. The glow of the monitor painted my room in cold blue light, and the silence outside made everything feel unreal, like I was trapped in some underground bunker. And then I found it. Someone asked about red rooms. Most replies mocked them, saying they were gullible, that they didn't exist. But one reply stood out. They exist. You just need to know where to look. Not cheap either. Be careful what you wish for. Attached was a string of letters and numbers, an onion link. I hesitated for almost an hour. My hand hovered over the mouse. A sane person would have closed the browser and gone to bed. But I wasn't sane that night. I was obsessed. When I finally clicked the link, my screen went black for a long moment. Then slowly, red text appeared against the void, and the text appeared, "Welcome to the room, entry fee required, no refunds, no witnesses." My throat went dry. It looked like something out of a bad horror movie, and part of me wanted to laugh it off. But then it asked for payment, a specific amount in Bitcoin, more than I was comfortable with, but not impossible. I remember staring at the number on the screen, the cursor blinking at me like it was daring me to go through with it. I told myself it was just a scam, that I'd lose some money and nothing else. But I didn't close the tab. I opened my wallet, copied the address, and sent the payment. That's when everything changed. The page refreshed into what looked like a waiting room. A live chat box was on the right side of the screen, filled with anonymous users typing in broken English, laughing, spamming emojis, or making grotesque requests. At the center was a black video player with a timer counting down. 12 minutes until the show started. I leaned back in my chair, my stomach twisting. I told myself over and over, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. But I didn't leave. When the timer hit 0, the screen flickered. And that's when I realized I'd made the worst mistake of my life. The video feed stuttered before coming to life. At first, it was just a dimly lit room, the camera locked in place. The walls were bare concrete, damp and stained, like the inside of a basement. In the center sat a single chair, metal bolted to the floor. Next to it, a small table with something resting on top. A gun. The chat box on the side erupted. "This looks real. Make him suffer. Use the gun first." I sat frozen, my hand hovering near the power button on my computer, but I couldn't look away. 2 minutes passed before anything happened. Then the door opened. A man in a cartoon mask stepped into frame, his face hidden behind an exaggerated smile. He wore black gloves, dark clothes, and moved like he'd done this 100 times before. Behind him, two others dragged someone inside. The victim was young, maybe my age. His face was covered by a blindfold, his hands bound with tape. He cried out in panic as they forced him into the chair. The chair rattled under his weight, then held still. I told myself it was fake, some twisted performance. But the moment he screamed, raw, broken, desperate, I knew it wasn't. There's a sound people make when they're truly terrified, and once you've heard it, you can never mistake it for acting. The man in the mask stood in front of the victim, tilting his head side to side like he was studying him. Then he picked up the gun from the table and pressed it to the blindfolded man's temple. The chat went wild. "Do it now! Make him beg! Shoot!" I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, like the air had been sucked from the room. The masked man didn't pull the trigger. Instead, he lowered the gun and spoke, muffled through some kind of voice distorter. He ordered the victim to make animal sounds: pig, dog, monkey. The man obeyed, stuttering through sobs, his voice cracking under the humiliation. I wanted to shut my laptop, to walk away, but I just sat there, sweating, shaking, my eyes locked on the screen. Minutes dragged by. The masked man slapped him, hit him with the gun, forced him to crawl on his knees. Blood smeared across the floor. The victim begged for his life, words slurred through tears. And then, without warning, the gun went off. The blindfolded man convulsed, slumped against the chair. Another shot, and another. The sound was deafening even through my cheap speakers, each crack echoing in my head. He kept firing until the gun clicked empty. The chat exploded in cheers, emojis, demands for more. Yet I couldn't move. I couldn't think. My body felt cold, like I'd left it behind and was watching from somewhere else. The masked man tossed the gun onto the table and dragged the lifeless body out of frame. For a moment, the room was empty. I thought it was over. Then he came back. He stepped close to the camera, too close. His mask filled the screen, the painted smile grotesque under the flickering light. He tilted his head again, staring straight into the lens. And then he spoke. Not to the audience, but to me. He said my name, my full name, and then my home address. I froze. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard it hurt. My ears rang, my vision blurred. I ripped the power cable out of the wall. The screen went black. My breathing came in short, shallow bursts. How? How could he know? I had VPNs, Tor, layers of protection. I'd followed every guide, every tutorial. How the hell did he find me? I stumbled back from the desk, my chair clattering to the floor. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every creak of the house sounded like footsteps. Every shadow in the corner looked like someone standing there. For hours, I sat in my bedroom with the lights on, clutching a kitchen knife, waiting for the sound of my door breaking down. No one came that night, or the night after. But I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The next day, I threw the computer in the trash. I scrubbed my hard drives, changed my phone, wiped everything. I applied for a gun permit and kept refreshing my email until it was approved. It's been 4 years since then. I moved, bought a new computer, built my life back up. To anyone else, I look normal, but I'm not anymore. And that's a wrap for today's video. I hope you enjoyed these chilling stories. If you did, don't forget to drop a comment with your favorite one, hit that like button, and subscribe for more spine-tingling tales coming your way. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.